Mel Gibson's life is much like a roller coaster, dizzying highs and rapid lows. He never planned to become an actor, but success came quickly. He gained fame as a talented director, yet is often better known for his controversial behavior.
Oh, wow, I know. Better throw you a parade, huh?
Oh, I am really looking forward to that.
Well, you want the thank yous print on the bass drums or the sousaphone covers?
Mel Gibson is an Australian-American actor and director of Irish descent. Who encouraged him to study drama? Which roles did he turn down? Who or what helped him bring the passion of the Christ to life? And how can his scandalous behavior be explained? Find all the answers in our new video.
All right, people. Here we go.
Mel Gibson, how the original Mad Max lives. Childhood in Australia. Mel Sil Gerard Gibson was born on January 3, 1956, in a New York City suburb as the sixth of 11 children. His mother, Anne Patricia, was a devout Irish Catholic, and she named him after Irish saints Mel and Columcille. Thanks to his mother, in addition to American citizenship, Mel also holds Irish citizenship. In 1968, Mel's father, Hutton, received $145,000 in compensation from the New York Central Railroad for a workplace injury, equivalent to $1,300,000 today. With this money, he decided to move his large family to Australia, where Mel's maternal grandmother, opera singer Eva Mylott, was from. The reasons for the move were both economic and driven by Hutton's fear that his sons would be drafted into the Vietnam War. The Gibsons settled in New South Wales, where Hutton's ancestors had once lived. Interestingly, Mel's father also had Irish roots, but his relationship with religion was strained. He was an outspoken critic of the Catholic Church and even founded his own religious community. Hutton Gibson was an intriguing and controversial figure. Known for his intellectual abilities, he often participated in TV quiz shows, winning cash prizes. However, he also made anti-Semitic remarks, denied the Holocaust, and was a proponent of conspiracy theories. It seems that Mel inherited some traits from his father. Accidental acting. While attending a regular school, Mel Gibson also received a spiritual education at a Catholic college. He had plans to become a journalist and never dreamed of a film career, though he secretly imagined himself in the shoes of actors from the popular American Western series, Maverick. Noticing her brother's aspirations, Mel's sister submitted an application on his behalf to the National Institute of Dramatic Art in Sydney. At the time, Gibson was working at an orange juice bottling plant and wasn't particularly eager to study. However, his sister convinced him to give it a try, with the final argument being the chance to move out of the family home. Mel rented a place with two other students, one of whom was Jeffrey Rush, later known as Captain Barbossa from Pirates of the Caribbean. Shortly after enrolling, Gibson made his stage debut in a production of Romeo and Juliet, and in 1977, he appeared on screen for the first time in the film Summer City, earning $400 for the role. In that same year, Mel met his future wife, dental nurse Robin Moore. There are two versions of how they met. According to one, they met by chance when the aspiring actor was touring with a theater in Adelaide. The other version suggests that a matchmaking agency brought them together. Either way, they got married in 1980, the same year their daughter was born. The family grew quickly, and over the next several years, they had 6 more sons, with just a 1 to 2 year gap between each child. First success. Meanwhile, Gibson continued working in theater, while also appearing in the TV series The Sullivans and a few other small projects. However, it wasn't long before his big break came. Mel was fortunate enough to land the lead role in the post-apocalyptic action film Mad Max.
Well, his friends, word's out there out to get you.
Scoot jockeys.
Yeah, nomad trash.
Well, I'll add it to my threat collection.
Good boy, Max. You're a good boy. Hey, come on.
The casting director was looking for a bold, young actor and held auditions among recent graduates of the National Institute of Dramatic Art. According to legend, Mel showed up to the audition after a fight, and his rough appearance caught the attention of the filmmakers, though the director denies this story. The role of a gritty future cop battling a local biker gang became Gibson's ticket to stardom. Mad Max became the highest-grossing Australian film of 1979 and quickly gained cult status among fans of the genre. Mel earned 15,000 Australian dollars for his role. Interestingly, when the film was first released in the US, the entire audio track was dubbed over due to concerns that American audiences wouldn't understand the actors' Australian accents. As a result, all the characters, including Mel Gibson, were given American accents. The original Australian audio track was eventually released in 2000 in a limited reissue of the film. Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior was released in 1981. The sequel earned Gibson $120,000, and between the two films, he managed to appear in several other movies. One of them was the melodrama Tim. For his role as a young man with an intellectual disability, Mel received his first acting award from the Australian Film Institute.
You went to school?
Well, I couldn't learn, so Mum and Dad didn't make me keep on going. I'm not a full quid. Anyone will tell you that.
In addition, Gibson's filmography expanded with the war drama Gallipoli, set during World War I, for which he earned 35,000 Australian dollars, the action film Attack Force Z with a fee of $1,000, and the historical drama The Year of Living Dangerously, where he starred alongside Sigourney Weaver. The latter was initially planned to be filmed in Indonesia, but production was moved to the Philippines due to complications. However, problems arose there as well, and rumors spread that the film would be anti-Islamic, resulting in threats against Mel. To finish the filming, the production relocated to Sydney. This made the movie very expensive to produce, and it barely broke even at the global box office.
Look, I'm not telling you this to give you some fantastic scoop. I just want you to save your life.
Oh, I know,
If
but
the
I mean, you can't
PKI
expect...
take over, they'll slaughter every European in Jakarta. I can get you out. I can get you on a plane. I'll talk to you around.
No, Jill, I'm staying.
Following that, Gibson appeared in the adventure film The Bounty, the drama The River with a fee of $500,000, and the melodrama Mrs. Soffel. Around this time, James Cameron offered Gibson the role of the Terminator, but he declined. Notably, he also once turned down the role of James Bond. He was also considered for roles like Batman and Wolverine, but the studios were deterred by his high salary demands. In 1985, the third Mad Max film, Beyond Thunderdome, was released.
But then this happened. This Apocalypto happened, and it's all finished. It just isn't there anymore. So you got to understand that this is home.
By this time, Mel's salary had reached $1,200,000 Australian dollars. Action hero. Following this, Gibson was offered the lead role in Die Hard, but he chose the action film Lethal Weapon instead.
I get it. Okay, now, come on.
So don't come near me!
Come on, give me a break. Well, you guy, my boss is down there and he's watching me, so I gotta make it look at least like I'm trying to save you, okay?
Interestingly, Bruce Willis made the opposite decision, as he was also considered for both projects. Lethal Weapon, a film about two LAPD cops, became a box office hit and remains a fan favorite in the genre. This role also caught the attention of Franco Zeffirelli, the director of the film adaptation of Hamlet, who offered Mel the lead role. His co-star was Glenn Close, and the movie was released in 1990. Notably, Hamlet was the first project produced by Icon Productions, a company co-founded by Gibson. Additionally, Gibson appeared in the crime thriller Tequila Sunrise, the sequel Lethal Weapon 2, and the action comedy Bird on a Wire. The latter's filming was especially convenient for Mel, as he was allowed to stay at the producer's summer house, giving him the opportunity to both work and relax with his family.
I really am anxious to hear this story.
Marianne, I need some bandages and some antibiotic and some antiseptic.
Get shot often, do you, Rick?
No, only twice before.
The actor also starred alongside Robert Downey Jr. in the action comedy Air America, earning a fee of $7 million.
Well, that fall seemed to go pretty well, all things considered.
This film marked the beginning of a strong, long-lasting friendship between the two actors. At the time, both were living rather unhealthy lifestyles. Gibson had struggled with alcohol since his youth, and directors were often amazed at how he managed to stay in shape and maintain professionalism despite his habits. Mel once admitted that he would drink at least 2 liters of beer just for breakfast. In 1992, Lethal Weapon 3 was released, becoming a box office success.
I know she's a cop, man. She's probably on the take, too. What do you take me for? Come on. No forces bend. Hey, look, she may be wearing a skirt, but we're all brothers, you know.
Along with his $10 million fee, Gibson and his co-stars received brand new Range Rover Jeeps. MTV also awarded Mel and his on-screen partner, Danny Glover, the prize for Best On-Screen Duo, as well as Best Action Sequence. Additionally, the romantic sci-fi film Forever Young premiered.
I want to sleep for a year.
Look, you've been through an awful lot.
I thought this through.
No, forget it.
I've been in the service for 12 years.
Danny, this is
I'm
silly.
military. I'm healthy. I've got no family. I got nowhere to go. I know tests. I know experiments. It's my job.
For the final scenes, Gibson had to appear older than his age, so makeup artists tried to add wrinkles. However, his striking bright blue eyes undermined their efforts, so he had to wear gray contact lenses instead. In the director's chair. In 1993, Gibson made his directorial debut with the drama The Man Without a Face. His production company also handled the filming, as it did for many of his future projects. The movie faced financing difficulties, and it was tough to find someone to play the lead role, as several actors turned down the offer. In the end, Gibson took on the role of the outcast teacher, Justin McLeod himself.
Why men and women are attracted to each other?
It's called sex, Norstad. And it's not on your exam.
In 1994, his filmography expanded with the Western comedy Maverick, for which Gibson specifically trained to quickly draw a revolver from a holster. His fee for this film was $15 million.
Well, now, I bring all sorts of pluses to the table. I hardly ever bluff, and I never, ever cheat.
I don't believe it.
Neither do I.
Around the same time, Gibson became interested in a project about the Scottish national hero, William Wallace. He wanted to direct the film, but felt he was too old for the lead role. The producers, on the other hand, wanted Mel to play Wallace, but didn't initially consider him as the director. A compromise was reached. Gibson would be allowed to direct the film if he agreed to play Wallace.
Lower your flags and march straight back to England, stopping at every home you pass by to beg forgiveness for 100 years of theft, rape, and murder. Do that, and your men shall live. Do it not, and every one of you will die today.
Gibson approached the production with meticulous attention to detail. The main battle scene took a month and a half to film, and the total footage amounted to a staggering 90 hours. His efforts paid off, and Braveheart, which was released in 1995, received 10 Academy Award nominations, winning 5, including Best Picture and Best Director. Gibson's work as a director also earned him a Golden Globe for Best Director. That same year, he added to his portfolio by voicing John Smith in the animated film Pocahontas. Following that, he starred in the thrillers Ransom and Conspiracy Theory, earning $20 million for each role. Interestingly, filming for Ransom was interrupted due to Gibson's appendectomy, but despite this, he received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor. In conspiracy theory, the scene where Gibson's character, a taxi driver, rattles off various conspiracy theories was improvised by Gibson himself. In-demand actor. In 1998, Lethal Weapon returned to the big screen with its fourth installment, and Mel's salary had risen to $25 million. He was in high demand, starring in one project after another, including the drama The $1 Million Hotel, the crime-action thriller Payback, the romantic comedy What Women Want, which earned him a Golden Globe nomination, and the historical drama The Patriot, for which he earned another $25 million. Kevin Spacey was originally set to co-star in The Patriot, but after paying Mel's fee, there wasn't enough budget left for another A-list actor.
But amongst us, among our homes, our children will learn of it with their own eyes. And the innocent will die with the rest of us.
Additionally, Mel lent his voice to the animated film Chicken Run and the TV show The Simpsons. However, he turned down an offer to voice a parody of himself in Family Guy. He later admitted he regretted that decision and found the episode hilarious. In the early 2000s, Gibson appeared in the war drama We Were Soldiers, the sci-fi thriller Signs, the comedy musical The Singing Detective, alongside Robert Downey Jr., and the comedy series Complete Savages. At that time, his standard movie salary was $25 million, which allowed him to focus more on his own projects. In Complete Savages, he not only acted, but also served as a writer, producer, and director for several episodes. The Passion of the Christ. However, Gibson's most significant project was the religious drama The Passion of the Christ. He approached the film with his usual meticulousness, investing $45 million of his own money into its production and marketing.
Testimonium veritati perebeam, omnis qui veritatem audiunt, vocem meam audiunt.
The screenplay was based on the four canonical Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Originally written in English, it was translated into Latin and reconstructed Aramaic. Interestingly, intentional mistakes were included when characters spoke languages that weren't their native tongues. Gibson also consulted with several theologians, and during filming in Italy, local priests visited the set daily to offer advice and even conduct mass. Mel later revealed that he had conceived the idea for the film in the early 1990s and decided to make it as a way to heal himself from depression. After its premiere in February 2004, The Passion of the Christ polarized audiences, splitting them into two opposing camps. Some praised the film, while others were outraged. Due to its content, Mel was accused of anti-Semitism, and his statements that the Holy Spirit helped him create the movie sparked further debate. Despite the controversy, The Passion of the Christ became the highest-grossing non-English language film of all time, holding that record until 2017. What was especially important to the creators was that Pope John Paul II gave the film his approval. Interestingly, Mel Gibson donated $100 million from the film's box office earnings to the Catholic Church. In 2004, Gibson topped Forbes' list of highest-paid celebrities, earning $210 million. Other estimates suggest his personal profit from The Passion of the Christ ranged between $400 million and $475 million. However, this immense success was soon followed by a massive downfall: anti-Semitism and Apocalypto. Already in trouble for offensive remarks and alcoholism, Gibson hit a new low in 2006. He was arrested for driving under the influence and, during the incident, ranted to the officer about his wife leaving him and blamed Jews for all the world's problems. As a result, he faced fines for the offense and had to publicly warn others about the dangers of driving drunk. For his anti-Semitic comments, he issued multiple apologies, calling his behavior disgraceful and admitting that he had temporarily lost his mind. Gibson needed to quell the scandal quickly, as public outrage was interfering with the promotion of his next project. In December of that year, the historical action movie Apocalypto, produced, directed, and co-written by Gibson, premiered.
Telo. Yan ano kaas tu Paskolo. Sunene este elo. Te isichaan is.
This time, Mel focused on the decline of the Maya civilization. The film was shot in Mexico, with a cast mainly composed of indigenous actors who spoke Yucatec Maya. To authentically depict the Maya culture, Gibson and his team collaborated with historians, anthropologists, and other experts. Despite these efforts, Apocalypto faced harsh criticism for perpetuating negative stereotypes about the Maya's brutality. Gibson acknowledged that certain aspects were exaggerated, but said it was done to emphasize the civilization's downfall. Despite the criticism, Apocalypto received 3 Academy Award nominations, as well as nominations for a BAFTA and a Golden Globe in the Best Foreign Language Film category. Many critics praised the atmospheric score composed by James Horner, which was developed under Gibson's direction. Together, they made a soundtrack that complemented the narrative and immersed viewers in the world of the ancient Maya. Interestingly, the film was well received in Mexico. 80% of Mexicans rated the film as good or very good, according to a poll. Big problems. In the following years, Mel Gibson primarily focused on producing, although he spent most of his time dealing with personal issues. First, the 2008 global recession reduced his personal fortune from around $900 million to $650 million. Second, a year later, Mel's wife filed for divorce. The actor later admitted that right after they met, he had a feeling, one day she will leave me. And indeed, Robin left him the day after his 2006 arrest. The ex-spouses cited the standard irreconcilable differences, and the divorce process dragged on for several years. Before the divorce was finalized, many things happened in Mel's personal life. In April 2009, he introduced his new partner to the public, writer and pianist Oksana Grigorieva. The two appeared together at the premiere of X-Men Origins, Wolverine, and by October, their daughter was born. However, the happiness was short-lived, as by spring 2010, it became known that one of the world's most talked-about couples intended to split. In June, Mel and Oksana entered a legal battle for custody of their daughter. Grigorieva accused Gibson of domestic violence and secured a restraining order. In response, Mel oddly sought a counter-restraining order, but in the end, the two reached a settlement. They agreed to joint custody, and Grigorieva received $750,000 and a house in Sherman Oaks, where she could live until their daughter turned 18. Oksana later realized she had accepted unfavorable terms, but the whole saga severely damaged Gibson's already fragile reputation. Hollywood Blacklist. While the legal battles were ongoing, audio recordings of Mel Gibson's conversations with Oksana Grigorieva were leaked, painting the actor in a terrible light. In these recordings, he made racist remarks, which led to his being blacklisted by Hollywood. In 2010, actors and crew members of The Hangover Part 2 refused to work with him, forcing Gibson to lose a small role in the film. In late 2011, Mel's divorce from Robin was finally settled, with reports suggesting it was the largest divorce settlement in Hollywood history, exceeding $400 million. Since the couple had no prenuptial agreement, under California law, Robin received half of everything Gibson earned during their marriage. During this period, Gibson found it difficult to land roles and mostly appeared in smaller projects. His filmography expanded with the detective thriller Edge of Darkness, the action films Get the Gringo and Machete Kills, although many of these films failed to break even at the box office. This was also the case with the drama The Beaver, which was aimed at winning an Oscar and had its release delayed multiple times in hopes of improving Gibson's image. However, the film's poor performance ultimately led to a limited release.
Who are you?
I'm the Beaver, Walter, and I'm here to save your goddamn life.
One of the key people who helped Gibson escape Hollywood's Blacklist was his longtime friend Robert Downey Jr. Downey publicly defended him and invited Mel as his guest to an awards ceremony where he was being honored. Interestingly, when Robert won a Screen Actors Guild Award for Oppenheimer in 2024, he once again thanked Gibson in his speech, which stirred some criticism. But their friendship had survived too much to be swayed by public opinion. Another helping hand came from Sylvester Stallone, who invited Gibson to star in The Expendables 3, where he played the role of an arms dealer.
Can you access nuclear weapons?
I might. But generally, I find people are a little too emotional for ownership. And I'd hate you killing all my other customers by accident. Or on purpose.
A new rise. Gibson next appeared in the action movie Bloodfather, which failed to recoup its production costs. However, his real focus was on his directorial project, the biographical war drama Hacksaw Ridge.
You screwing with me, Dawes?
No, sir. I volunteered. I ain't got no problem with wearing my uniform and saluting the flag and doing my duty. It's just carrying a gun and taking a human life.
The gamble paid off. The film, with its anti-war message and Andrew Garfield portraying a real-life hero who saved 75 soldiers during World War II, was highly praised. The premiere took place in Venice, and according to Mel, the audience gave a standing ovation for 9 minutes and 40 seconds. He timed it himself. The film earned major nominations at both the Golden Globes and the Oscars, with 2 Academy Awards going to the film's creators for editing and sound. Gibson himself received the Razzie Award for Redeemer, a rare recognition from the Golden Raspberry Awards, which had previously been critical of him. Since then, Gibson's filmography has steadily grown with new projects each year. In 2017, he starred in the comedy Daddy's Home 2, playing the father of Mark Wahlberg's character.
Come on.
Hey, cut it out, all right? I'm not gonna wrestle an old man whose ass is hanging out his hospital gown.
Greco-Roman style, best way.
Hey, Great Santini, I'm not gonna do this, all right? Cut it out.
All right.
Get some rest.
Oh, that's one candy ass.
That same year, Mel became a father again in real life. His girlfriend, writer, and director Rosalind Ross gave birth to their son. The couple had met in 2014 when Gibson's production company hired Rosalind as a co-writer for a script. Troubled films. In 2018, Gibson starred as veteran cop Brett Ridgman in the action film Dragged Across Concrete and played Oxford professor James Murray in the biographical drama The Professor and the Madman, based on Simon Winchester's book.
I've never been able to without you. Once again, lend yourself to me. If I'm to fashion a book, I'll need a spine.
Interestingly, Gibson had acquired the rights to adapt the book back in 1999, but struggled to bring the project to life. Even when production finally began, things didn't go as planned. Gibson wanted to direct the film himself and shoot on location in Oxford, but the studio refused due to budget overruns and scheduling issues. The dispute escalated to a court case, and one of the scriptwriters took over as director.
What do you think?
I think you need a rewrite. Sounds like a real stinker.
Gibson lost the lawsuit and decided not to participate in the film's promotional campaign. In 2019, Gibson played Colonel Clive Ventor in the sci-fi action film Boss Level. During filming, he accidentally landed a hard punch on Frank Grillo's face, causing a jaw displacement. However, Grillo didn't report the injury right away, wanting to avoid interrupting the shoot, and only had his jaw reset 8 hours later. In the following years, Gibson appeared in action films like Force of Nature, Fat Man, Agent Game, Last Looks, and the detective movie Waldo. These projects didn't achieve widespread success, much like the 2022 thriller On the Line. Surprisingly, On the Line later climbed to second place among Netflix's most popular films. The reasons for this sudden popularity are unclear, but some speculate it became a so bad it's good type of movie, perfect for a party watch.
I can't keep you on the air, I'm sorry. Let's chat offline. I promise you, together we can fix this.
No, do not cut me off the air, or I'll go upstairs and I'll kill everybody.
You're not gonna kill anyone, all right?
In 2022, several more films featuring Gibson were released, including the biographical drama Father Stu, the action films Hot Seat and Panama, and the thriller Bandit. Gibson's next projects included the crime films Desperation Road, Confidential Informant, and the crime miniseries The Continental.
But, sir, if you want to go to that floor, you must be announced.
Of course. What was I thinking? Be my guest.
Future plans. In 2024, Mel Gibson's latest action movie, The Suspect, was released. Looking ahead, he has several thrillers lined up, including Boys of Summer, Leo from Toledo, and the highly anticipated Lethal Weapon 5. Not only will Gibson return to his iconic role as Martin Riggs, but he will also take over the directorial duties from the late Richard Donner. Gibson has expressed a stronger passion for directing than acting. He explains that directing is essentially storytelling, much like acting, but with far greater control. Currently in post-production is the thriller Flight Risk, starring Mark Wahlberg. Wahlberg, who regards Gibson as a talented director, was eager to work with him in this capacity. He was impressed that the shoot lasted only about 20 days, a career record for Wahlberg. They filmed 15 to 20 pages of the script daily, with Gibson having a clear vision of what he wanted and how to achieve it. Gibson is also working on a sequel to his controversial hit, The Passion of the Christ, which will be titled The Resurrection. Additionally, he has expressed interest in directing a film written by his partner, Rosalind Ross, about the Battle of Okinawa during World War II. Interestingly, Gibson has previously explored the topic of war in Asia. In 2015, he served as artistic director and producer for the Chinese blockbuster The Bombing, which starred Bruce Willis and Adrian Brody. The film is set during the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1938. However, it was never released in China due to allegations of financial fraud involving one of the actors, though Gibson's name remained untouched by the scandal. Complex personality. Life has taught Mel Gibson to keep his opinions to himself, as they are often controversial. He admits to being unapologetically politically incorrect, and finds the pressure to be tactful, both frightening and damaging to intelligence. Not everyone is going to like you all the time, he says. Gibson's sense of humor isn't to everyone's taste either. Helena Bonham Carter, who co-starred with him in Hamlet, described his humor as crude, toilet-based, and lacking refinement. Sophie Marceau likely wasn't a fan of his jokes either, as during the filming of Braveheart, Gibson often pranked her by exposing his genitals. Julia Roberts, during the shooting of Conspiracy Theory, once received a wrapped gift from Gibson containing a dead rat. Gibson's political views are often labeled ultra-conservative, and he's been associated with supporting the Republican Party, though he has never explicitly identified as such. For example, he spoke positively about Republican President George Bush, but expressed doubts about the Iraq War. What can be said with more certainty is that many of his views align with traditional Catholicism. Since preparing for the Passion of the Christ, Gibson's library has included early Christian texts, and he has amassed a collection of ancient wooden crosses, icons, and antique furniture from European monasteries. After several rehab courses, Gibson managed to control his alcohol addiction. Treatment for his lifelong battle with depression, which he had suffered from since adolescence, also helped. However, he hasn't been able to quit smoking. In the 2000s, his wife convinced him to limit himself to 3 cigarettes a day, but he didn't stick to it for long. Material wealth. Mel Gibson's net worth is estimated at $425 million, which is quite impressive considering all the controversies and scandals. Over the decades, he has appeared in commercials for Japanese beer Asahi and Subaru cars, and has accumulated numerous real estate properties. From 1994 to 2007, he owned an estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. He bought it for $9 million and sold it for $40 million to settle his divorce with Robin. Since 2008, Gibson has owned a house in Malibu, which he purchased for $11,500,000. Despite listing the property several times, the mansion, with 5 bedrooms, a guest house, a library, spacious living rooms, and 2 pools, still belongs to him. He also owns a ranch in Costa Rica, bought in 2007 for $26 million after filming Apocalypto. The Spanish colonial-style estate is surrounded by lush vegetation, with a picturesque beach nearby. Gibson sold his Australian property in 2004 for $6 million, and later purchased the private Mago Island in Fiji for $15 million. In 2009, he bought a mansion in Sherman Oaks, California, where he planned to live with Oksana Grigorieva and their daughter, but those plans fell through. Gibson held on to the house for a while, but eventually sold it at a loss in 2017 for $2,100,000. Among the cars Gibson has been spotted driving are a modest Toyota Cressida and a luxury Maserati worth $110,000. However, he crashed the latter in Malibu during his legal battles with Grigorieva.
Here you have it.
Yeah, boy. Pleasure.
As always.
Mel Gibson remains a controversial figure. What's your opinion of him? Share your thoughts in the comments.